Hello, Thorsten.
Hi.
Good to see you. Welcome to the second video in our little new series. In the preparation for this, we talked about that the goal of this series is to explain Trickle, but at the same time, not to have a too rigid structure, right? We can discuss what we're going to do here and diverge a little bit. The main goal of today's session is how do you add things to Trickle? How can you add expert sources, scripts, and streams to Trickle? Just as a reminder, in the last episode, we talked about what is Trickle and focused on each individual type of content that you can add to Trickle. Small recap: experts, human beings, people that you want to learn from or you want to keep on your radar. You can put them into Trickle like in a phone book, let's say, but you can
dead or
Trickle.
alive.
Yes, dead or alive, everybody. You can put in all your experts and you can connect them to the content and with each other. That's then the good part. Sources, anything with the URL can be a source. You can think of it like a file system for everything. It can be YouTube videos, articles, websites, tweets, everything with the URL. And then drips are your insights, things that you learned, things that you want to share with other people, like microblog articles of the knowledge that came out of saving your sources and experts and connecting everything with each other. A title and a small article object. Mm-hmm. And streams are like folders, but a little bit more powerful and tiny. You can connect anything to a stream. That means you can also connect streams with each other. You can connect expert sources, scripts, and so on. You can create groups in any shape and form that you want. It's not that you must put a folder in a folder, you know it from your file system, but rather you connect to these streams, and that makes it much more powerful. We'll probably talk more about this, and the last episode was a little bit more descriptive. One quick caveat: this is Trickle Early Access mode, so it's not finished yet. It's not even released in a bigger way. Yes, it's online, you can sign up, but don't expect anything to work really well yet. We're still heavily developing it. And also this version that you see right now will probably look a little bit different or have more features or more fine-tunings within the next weeks and months. Mm-hmm. So with that having being said, experts. How about we start adding an expert? Just to give you context, I listened to that podcast recently, and it was really insightful. They talked about Ian McGilchrist and his book, The Master and His Emissary. I've heard about this also on the Making Sense podcast, and this book is really interesting. So you'll see how I put him now in here as an expert, and then also some sources and connect it with content that I already have. How do you add an expert on Trickle? You see, this symbolizes it quite well, right? This is the personal homepage of McGilchrist. And here at the bottom, you see his Twitter profile, his Facebook profile, his YouTube channel, and so on. This is where we're going with experts. Also, this selection of profiles represents this person online. So the idea is here that you copy the one public profile. You go to My Trickle, My Experts here. You find the Add Expert button. You click on the plus. Now, you could look whether this expert is already in Trickle. If I now type in here McGill, if somebody would have already added McGilchrist, you would find him here. This would be useful. Our goal is to have as limited number of duplicates as possible, right? If I talk about Ian McGilchrist and somebody else talks about him too, we don't want different data sets. We want to know that we are talking about the same person. Yeah. That's why when you add a person, we support certain platforms. Most important of all is Wikipedia. That's a start. We want to support many more, Facebook, LinkedIn, you name it, where people can have public profiles. But the goal is that they are unique. Wikipedia is great because they have a system where they take care that there's only one human being, but of course, not everybody has a Wikipedia entry. And so we added a different end of the spectrum Twitter. On Twitter, everybody can create as many profiles as they want, but typically journalists, authors, and so on tend to create a profile that they focus on, and then this is for everybody the profile to mention this expert, right? So that's what I'm pasting in here. I click add via URL, and then we are fetching from the profile information, name, image, little bio, and then you can add this person. Since he's not yet here on the platform, you could modify the bio and then you save it. And now I have this entry in my Trickle. Now I added him here in my experts.
If you add the link of the Twitter profile and he would have been already in Trickle, then you would see a notification. Then you wouldn't have to search before in Trickle if you find the name.
Exactly. So let's take, for example, this Twitter link here. You conveniently find profile links right below the person. Also, if it would be multiple, you would find them here, as you see here with Wikipedia and Twitter. So let's copy the one from Tom. And if I would add him here, then there would be no duplication. It's just the same entry. This is our goal, to avoid duplicate this human being. So that's how you add an expert. And we're working on simpler ways where you just have to type in the name and it will search Twitter and Wikipedia automatically. But for now, this is the method that you can rely on. You go to experts, add expert, search, or add via link.
And just quick, if you would, from Tom Morgan, for example, add the Wikipedia link, then you could also merge them to not have two different.
Exactly. That would be a nice thing to do for Ian, because he probably has Wikipedia entry. Let's quickly try. So here is the Wikipedia entry. I copy this, go back to my experts. Now let's do that. This is a little tricky in this early stage where we are. We want to find better ways to do it, right? But for now, it works like this. You add a Wikipedia entry. Now we show you that, okay, this is the person, but in our database, we have this person. Maybe it's this expert. We cannot be sure, since names can be exactly the same even for different human beings. So we show you this alternative person, our entry here. And if you say, yes, that's the expert, then we have kind of security question to say, okay, do you want now to update the Wikipedia entry into this entry here?
Instead of having two experts who is basically the same person.
Yes. And that's now a nice situation, because whenever somebody uses the Twitter URL or the Wikipedia URL, they will find the same person, find the expert. Now I added Tim McGilchrist, and now let's add a source to also show why you would add an expert in the first place. It's not only a directory of experts, but you can actually work with it. I go to sources. This is my private Trickle account, so there's lots of stuff in here. Just a small side note, I had the idea of a different video format. I call that the My Trickle Show, where I invite people and show them my Trickle of what I added last week. I would specifically talk about the content, why I added it, how I added it, and so on. At the same time, I would show Trickle and how it works. So that is a different format. I hope that we can talk more about this in the future. Sources, how do I add a source? Basically, it's the same. I go to the Sources tab, and here I can click Add Source. Now I have the URL field here. And I wanted to add this explain video because McGilchrist wrote the book, The Master and His Emissary, about the divided brain, or about the two halves of the brain, the left and the right hemisphere, and how they differ, and how has this implications on our culture, on the way we behave. I can add the reference to this video to my Trickle. You see it's added here on the top left. And now I go to the connections page and can connect it Whoops, another bug. I probably have to refresh the page. It's related to this other bug that I had before. But I know also that we fixed this in the latest release. Good example of early access. Refresh is like a good rule of thumb. It's like switching your computer on and off, right? Mm. Okay, now I clicked on connections.
This is now the source that you just added, right? Yeah.
Yes, the source I just added. I click this connections button, and then I go here. And if I click now on add connections, I can see my Trickle in a different way. I again see all my content in Trickle. I see the expert that we just added, and I can connect this expert to this video. Now, this is just for me, right, in my personal account. But these two are now connected. And if I would add more sources related to the book, then they would all be shown here. I can show you one example. If we go now back to my sources, which is, where is the newsletter? Here. The Exponential View newsletter, you see that I added 13 sources with this newsletter. I got all these sources out of this newsletter as links. It struck me as very interesting and useful. And you see also, for example, I read through the newsletter these 12 or sources on the case of this Tesla-related source. Tesla had an AI day recently, and when I click on that source, that I filed it in artificial intelligence in the stream, that I connected it not only to this newsletter, but also other videos that I watched recently. How about we add a stream next? Here are my streams. These were all topics that I recently connected.
And these streams were all created by you, right?
Yes, I created them. In the future, you would see here also streams of other people which are set to public and where you connected something to. If I would connect McGilchrist to a public stream of somebody else, I would see the public stream here too.
Yeah.
But that's something that we go into in greater detail in a future video. Here, in this case, they are all done by me. And I mostly use them as topics, like artificial intelligence, climate change, data privacy, all topics where I sometimes come across sources or experts that I then connect to these streams. Now let's add a new stream, and I call it Divided Brain. I clicked on the plus, right on the top left, the usual thing, gave it a title. Now what happens? First of all, you could describe the stream a little further. I don't think that's something that you need to do every time. Mm-hmm. And we're actually even discussing whether this should only be a step once you publish something. So don't think too much about that. Rather, you should just give it a proper title. Then you can choose a stream color to make it a little bit more unique, that you can quicker identify things. You could also use it as an organization system. You'll see the more streams you create, the more interesting it becomes for you to just, choose a different color, sometimes maybe even based on the image. These images here come from Unsplash, which is this wonderful royalty-free image library. And you could also search for other terms, for example, left, right, brain. Let's see whether we find some things. No, something like that could be okay. You can always, of course, choose a different image. You can not only upload it from your device, but you can also paste an image URL. Sometimes I just search on Google for a nice image, copy the URL, paste it in here, and then I can have a custom image that I recognize. Here we go. I created this new stream, and now I will do the same thing, and hopefully it gets a little bit clearer now already.
And nothing is inside that stream. That's why it's still connection zero.
Sometimes I refer to streams as the cover of a book, but just the cover, right? And then you start connecting things to it, sketching out, mind mapping, or just putting things in there, collecting. You're curating as a first step. And then at some point you start writing drips, and that's putting in pages to this book cover. Let's focus on the connection part for now here. So I clicked on connections. Now I'm again on this connections page. If you use Trickle more and more, you will recognize this page immediately since it is so important. It's like the Finder on your Mac or like the Explorer on Windows. This is the mode where you do the work of connecting, and then you have other work modes as well, but this is definitely an important one. So again, if I click here the Add Connection button, I see the last items that I added. So that was the stream, but here I connected McGilchrist recently. That's why he's on top of the list. This list puts the most recently connected items on the top. Of course, I can also the search. I clicked here on this little button to connect. If something is not connected, it's gray. One means I have connected this animation to one other item. And this will indicate the global connections that are accessible in Trickle, which is, again, something for another video. And it has to do with the voluntary step of publishing something on Trickle. But for now, I can click here to connect it to the stream. Let's see if I have divided. Yeah, here, the Making Sense podcast with Ian McGilchrist. I saved that in Trickle, and that's why I have it here. So I connected now 2 sources and 1 expert to the stream. Now I click on the Making Sense podcast episode just to look what I connected to this episode, because there was one more connection. And wonderful. So you see, these are the 2 sides of the connections that I just created. In the Stream Divided Brain, when I click here, then I see the Sam Harris Waking Up podcast episode. And if I click on the Waking Up episode and I put that in focus, then I see, of course, the other side. So the way back to the divided brain stream that I just created. But I also see other things. For example, in this episode, I already connected the book of Ian McGilchrist. That's his book, right? I usually use Goodreads, but you could also connect it to the Amazon entry or homepage of the book. But now, since I added the expert to Trickle in our session, I will now quickly connect him also to this book that he wrote. Now, the book is not only connected to this Making Sense podcast, not only to Infinite Loops, where they also discussed this book, but also to him as an expert. I go back to Ian McGilchrist as the expert, because now I know that I connected him already to the Divided Brain. And now I can click on that entry. I open the connections of the Divided Brain. And what's missing here is the book, which also fits the topic very well. So I can connect this book, Master and His Emissary. Here, that's the book. And I connect this as well. Okay, so this was a stream in the first place. And what I just showed you was you go to My Streams, you click on Add Stream, and you can create a stream.
Basically, it's the same with the sources.
Yes, same position as with the sources. Now, what's left is drips. And this is where we still have the most work in front of us to make it user-friendly. You could now assume you go to the drips page and click on a drip. And in theory, that works, but a little problem we found. So when the page loads, which is still a little bit slow these days, and you click on plus, that's actually ideal. You see already the last item that I added as a stream here selected. The reason is that drips can only be created in streams. That's one conscious decision that we made. Every drip has to be in a one-on-one relationship with a stream. You can furthermore connect it to other streams. You can connect it to other sources and other expert, but it needs one stream as its home base. And this selector here is not yet ideal. It has some technical issues, and we're working on that. But one option is to go to the add drip, then find the stream that you are looking for. If that's not working, I show you a second option in a bit. I could now create a drip by giving it a title. That's the minimum that the drip needs. So I would call it now, let's be very generic here, the left and right different. Very basic, just as an example. That could be one insight that I got from in the divided brain. I see the newly created drip here on the top left. I could, if I wanted, just stay on the connections level now. So I could just connect things to the strip on that level. Just as I showed you with the stream, I could connect it now to the strip. But the drip is a little bit more interesting in the sense that I can actually write full text. So I clicked on the Go to Drip button here on the top left. And here you see what a drip currently looks like, even though it's very basic. This is the drip reader, and it shows you, okay, this drip is in this stream, and it has this title. There could be text, but I didn't put in any text here. I could add a connection right away from the drip reader. So I could connect this now to the book here. Then it would appear here on this list. Yeah. Let me explain here the private note. I can make a note just for myself. I still need to add more details, something like that. Note to myself. Or I could extract some insight here and write it in my private note. This will always be only for myself. But the drip itself, there is the option to publish that later. So the drip, I can write the drip for myself. It can stay private at the beginning, but I also have the option to publish and share it with other users or the internet.
The text in the drip would be between the headline or the title and the connection.
Yes. And let's go there. I click here on the little edit icon and it opens the drip editor. So that's not the drip reader. It is similar, but you see here now I can actually write here. Only the owner of a drip can open the editor. I have the possibility to add more text and save that. And if I would now go back to the drip reader, I would see it there as well. I can also create new drips in the stream. So basically in the drip editor, you see the stream that you are currently editing. Streams can have chapters. You can add a second chapter, right? The first chapter is already started here. You can add now a second chapter, and you can think of it like a book. You can now start to write first drip, second drip, third drip, then maybe a new chapter, then again 4 drips, then another chapter. This is how you can really bring your thoughts into a coherent structure for yourself, but also to share it with other people. So I could add a second drip here, for example, and call it the split insight into the behavior of the two halves. This is again just to make the point. So I added a second drip now in the divided brain stream, and I can connect something to it, maybe an article specifically about that experiment. And I can write my thoughts down about this insight.
So the drips are basically something where you can use your own words to add something.
If we go back now to my trick as an overview, and also you see here how it all fits into the structure, into this tool that Trickle wants to be. So I added an expert based on an interview that I heard of this person. And I researched some more articles about this person. At some point, I arrive at some conclusions. And this is not only an important exercise, but it's also an important part of learning. It's an important memory exercise. So that's what you do in the form of drips. And you give this an umbrella, right? Maybe that's even one part before. You give it a kind of home. You connect everything together in a stream to keep an overview, get hold of it. And in the stream, you not only have connections, but you also have drips. It works on the different levels as well. You can connect something on the stream level, but then you can also be more creative. Yeah, this is what makes it so challenging. At this point in time, I probably need to talk for hours to explain it to somebody else. But that's also why we're doing this series, right? To get started, to split it up into reasonable chunks, to see what works, what doesn't work, to take anybody who wants to listen and wants to try it with us on the journey.
Yeah, I think you need this information to see and get a grasp how useful it can be.
Yes. Last episode, we called it the Evernote effect. If I just tell you about Trickle, then I don't know if you really make the leap. If you see my Trickle, you already get a better glimpse of it and you can somehow see where this is going. But imagine you work with it for 6 months and then you look back on your own Trickle with all the content that you found on the internet, right? Like that you bundled, connected with each other, where you drew conclusions in the form of drips. Then that's probably a wonderful, convincing thing for you. Let's keep it at that. Thank you so much, Thorsten, for being here, my partner in crime. Maybe to end this video, where are you at the moment? You see it a little bit in the background. You're not at home, right?
No, I'm not at home. I'm hiking in the Alps in Austria.
Wonderful. You still found the time for this little Trickle session. I'm thankful and wish you a wonderful time. Relax, have fun. And we see each other pretty soon in a couple of days, I hope, for our third video.